Welcome back to the second video for this tutorial for sewing the Ariadne Zipper Clutch by Mote. Owner Renee Thomas. She also designed this pattern. She has a website that is moteitbllc.com. Like I said, the first video we went over reviewing the materials and the patterns to look at the layout of talking about like what part of the pattern pieces go with which part of this clutch. But this video is going to be going over how to lay out your pattern pieces. I'm going to go over cutting them out. I will talk about some differences that I made to my pattern. For the overlay piece, this is the piece that's going to be overlaying your interior zipper pocket. I went ahead and made another pattern, but I just have my tab a little bit wider because I do have a woven label for my business, Mind of a Ladybug, and I want my label to be able to fit completely on this tab. Typically, I put my little tab above the zipper, but when I put this together, I don't want to worry about running out of space or trying to squeeze it onto this narrower overlay. So I just widened the tab at the bottom so I can sew my label onto this tab before I put this on for my interior lining. Also, I'm using 1-inch hardware, not the 3/4 inch hardware that is prescribed in the pattern. So I'm making my D-ring connector tabs wider to accommodate for that. And then also my zippers are nylon coil, and my zipper tape is actually wider than this zipper tab. So I'm just making this wider to match the width of my zipper and just making it as a square. So those are the differences that I've made to the pattern. And other than that, everything else is going to be cut out as is. When we go over the pattern piece for this faux pocket, when we get to that point, I will show you how you can do different things with it. You can add a patch. It doesn't have to be a pocket, but I'll go over how I'm going to jazz up the pocket for my clutch, and I'll go over that when we get to that point. All right. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to take the pieces that need to be cut out of my exterior and put them off to the side. Let's see, exterior. It's going to be most of these pieces. The lining pieces are going to be cut out of waterproof canvas after this is all done. But let me just make sure. Yeah. It's going to be all these. Yep, that's going to be all these. I think I already put my lining pieces off to the side. So for my exterior, I'm going to be using a vinyl. Now she does tell you to trace this out on the right side of your fabric because you want to make sure that your pieces are going to be showing as they're supposed to be. Now for this, I am using a black Sharpie. Not a big deal because the lines on my vinyl are black and I'm tracing around the edges. So as I'm tracing around the edges of these pattern pieces, I can definitely trim off those markings for the Sharpies as I'm cutting them out. All right. So now I'm about to go ahead and cut my 2 top edge strips out. They're going to both be cut at 13.5 inches and 1 5/8 inches wide. All right, so now that I've got those top strips already lined out, let's go ahead and cut these pattern pieces out in order. We're going to start with pattern piece A, which is your main body. And it says this one's cut on the fold. Even though it's cut on the fold, I'm going to be tracing out this half, and then I'm going to fold it over to trace the rest of it instead of folding my fabric, because sometimes when you have a thicker fabric, when you go to fold it, there's a couple of extra, maybe 1/8 of an inch. Sometimes that kind of gets added in, and it kind of will throw off the rest of your measurements. So I'm just going to line this up with the edge of the strap that I just traced, and I'm aligning the top edge with the line that I drew to square off the top of this fabric. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a little notch, just draw a little line, a little notch right here to let me know where the midpoint of this piece of fabric. I'm going to do the same thing on the top. I'm just going to make another little line. And I kind of have to be a little precise where I put it because it's hard for me to see it because it's on black. But just make sure that you use chalk or a wax pencil or the disappearing ink markers or such. You can use those to trace these. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and just trace this part of this. And then I'm going to put my straight edge ruler down here. And this is going to assist me with making sure that my pattern piece is level on both halves. I'm lining this up at the bottom edge of this. And then I have my little mark drawn for where that midpoint is at. And it's actually right where the number 8 is at on this ruler, which helps. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to pick this pattern piece up. I'm going to fold it over to the other side, but I know that the mark is at my 8-inch mark right there. So I'm just going to pick it up, put it right back down up against this ruler. It should line up with the line across the top, which it does. And I'm just going to go ahead, move the ruler out of the way, and then just keep on tracing. Pattern piece A. All right, so now you can see we've traced out our piece here for pattern piece A. You only need one because it's going to be for the back of your clutch. You only need one from your exterior. We'll be cutting out 2 later for our lining, all right? Next, we're going to move on to pattern piece B. I like to use the lines from my previous pieces I'm tracing out, so I'm going to use the bottom edge of A and the side of my strap. I'm just going to line it up next to it. And then I'm going to go ahead and trace. All right. Now you can faintly see here and now the shape of pattern piece B cut out right here. All right, you just need one of those. On to pattern piece C, the left lapel back. We only need one, and we need to cut it from this fabric. So I'm going to line it up with the edge of this line here and this line here. Now, with vinyl, it does not have a immediate or very distinct weft to it, so you can lay pieces kind of sideways or straight up and down, however you need to, but I would advise that sometimes you just try to find ways to have less waste left over. So if that means fussy cutting your pieces, piecing them together, doing methods like this where you're placing pieces up against each other. I would suggest trying stuff like that because then you'll have larger pieces left over at the end as a whole piece, and then you can have those pieces for other projects instead of just randomly putting your fabric down wherever you like on your fabric. But that's just a personal choice of mine. All right. So now you see we have pattern piece C. It's traced out right here. And we only needed one of those. Pattern piece D is for the right side of the chest. We only need one of these. After making this bag, if you guys do want to be able to make this bag and get your pieces traced out, laid out faster, Renee does offer an acrylic template for this bag pattern. So that is something to look into if you plan on making more of these and you want to, up your game with your efficiency on tracing out patterns. I would suggest that you guys check that out. All right, so this is D. And I do have on here the square cut out. I'm sorry, let me go back to see this. I do have this square cut out on here because I'm going to use it to transfer that marking for my zipper pocket, but I like to transfer those outlines later. I like to make sure that my zippers are matching up on both sides, so I'll get to that, tracing that out and cutting that out later. Okay. We have pattern piece E, which is the middle chest. We only need one of these, so I'm going to lay this. I'm using this slanted edge right here. Yeah, actually, let's see if I can turn that around that way. That'll be better. I'm putting this up against the slanted edge of piece C. And I'm just going to trace this out. pattern piece F. This is going to be the overlay for the interior zip pocket. Now, mind you, I said earlier I did make my tab a little bit wider because I want to put my woven label on here. So other than that, the other rest of this overlay piece is drawn the same way. I just widened that tab. So I'm going to go ahead and trace this one out. All right, next we have right lapel pattern piece G. Now remember, you need two of these and one of them needs to be mirrored. So that means that one of them is going to be this face up and then another one you're going to cut face down. That's pattern piece G. Now we need pattern piece H, which is the collar. Remember, we're going to have these two marks. Make sure you transfer those marks. Both marks are 1/4 of an inch deep. Same as before, since these are mirrored, you're going to do one with the pattern piece face up, another with the pattern piece face down. Now, if you're cutting this out on something and you really can't trace on the front side of your garment, you can do this on the back side. Although, if you do this on the back side, you need to make sure that your pattern pieces are all face down as the standard, because they would mean that they would be face up if they were on the front. So if you're cutting your pieces out and you cannot trace on the front and you have to do it on the back, make sure all your pattern pieces are face down. It'll be the opposite of whatever the instructions say of how to cut it out. So if there's something that you're supposed to cut face down, then you need to have your pattern piece right side up. But if you cannot trace on the front of your fabric for whatever reason, and you have to trace on the back side, make sure that your pattern pieces are face down as a standard. So here we go. This is the pattern piece for the pocket. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a double stacked pocket piece. I want to cut a piece of black vinyl out that's this size, and then I want to cut out another piece of this out of this vinyl to go on top, so I have like a little bit of border action going on around mine. So what I am going to do is I am going to trim out this piece. I have this little space right here, which is perfect. I can cut this piece out right here. I am going to be trimming it down, but that's okay. I can cut this one out of this size and then just trim it down. Now remember, I have my D-ring connectors and my zipper tab. So for my zipper tab, it's a 1/4 of an inch squared. And for my D-ring connector, it's 2 inches wide by 1 3/4 inch tall. All right, so we have our 2 zipper tabs cut out, and then we'll have our 2 D-ring connectors cut out. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut these pieces out. And as I cut them out, I'm going to make sure that I label the back side of them to what the pieces are. Some of them are easy. You might not need to label them because you know you'll be able to easily identify what some of them are, but some of them are not. So I will definitely encourage you to make sure you mark in a small letter or something on the back side of your fabric, mark what it is. That way you can identify it later as you're putting these pieces together, okay? So this is the piece I'm going to use in conjunction with this fabric to give my pocket a little bit of dimension. All right. All right. So now we have our 2 top edge pieces. We have our piece A, which is the back of the clutch. We have our piece B, which is the left chest lapel. We have our piece C, which is the right lapel back. We have piece D, which is the right chest of the body. We have piece E, which is the center part of the bag that everything's kind of anchored to. A, C, D, E, F. F is our overlay piece. Like I said, I made mine a little bit wider because I'm going to have a woven label on there. We have our 2 mirrored pieces for G, is bending to the right. Just remember, we're opposites. But these 2 pieces are the ones that are cut mirrored. So, there you go. And then also we have 2 H pieces, which are our colors, and they are cut mirrored as well, making sure that you cut the notches in them, and your notches are cut at 1/4 of an inch, following the markings that are on the pattern. I have my piece here for my faux pocket. Sorry. I have the 2 pieces here. I'll show you how I'm going to layer those up. And then I have my 2 zipper tabs as well as my 2 D-ring connectors. All right. So for this this faux pocket, I'm going to prep this. I want this to be on the bottom. I want this to be on top. I want these to be like a double-decker type of look, but I want to leave a little bit of the black showing around the outside. So what I'm going to do is, instead of like cutting out a hole of this one and just putting it on there, I'm just going to trim down about a 1/4 of an inch all the way around all the sides of this piece, and I'm going to stitch it to this piece. To help me out, I'm just going to go ahead and use my clear roller. I'm going to stitch this little piece on top of this. I'm just going to do a top stitch about an eighth of an inch away from the edge of this gray vinyl. I'm going to do this to this piece before I move on later on to put it on there. All right. Okay, so now we're going to go over the pieces that you need to make sure that you're cutting out of your lining material. For my bag, I'm going to be using a black waterproof canvas. I will not have to interface it, so where it calls out for a woven interfacing, I won't have to do it with this because the waterproof canvas does have a stiffer body to it, so you won't have to worry about it with this. So we're going to be cutting out 2 of these of the main body. These are the main piece that's going to be going in the inside of your bag. One is going to be against the back. One is going to be against the back side of the jacket front. When I get to that part to trace it out, I will go ahead and open this up there, but I'm going to go ahead and I will be cutting this one on the fold because this waterproof canvas is like as thin as regular fabric, so I don't have to worry about any thickness adding to the width of this pattern piece. So I will be cutting this one on the fold. You're also going to be cutting out your lining zipper pocket. As I said before, if you're cutting this out as 2 pieces, you're going to be cutting 2 8x6 pieces. If you want to cut this out as one long rectangle that you will just fold up and close, then you want to cut it out at one 8x12 inch piece. All right. And I will be cutting mine out as the 8x12 because I want to just do one long piece that will fold. You're also going to be cutting out your front zipper pocket. You're going to be cutting out 2 of these. Now, remember, this is the one that you're putting in sideways. That's why I have top and bottom marked on this side and this side, because when you put it in, you're going to be folding it, and then you're going to be stitching around it to close. But remember, the zipper on the front over these 2 side pockets. So it will be this way. If you want to do the short pockets, the more shallow pockets as it is in the instructions, this is fine. You are going to need to be cutting out 2 of these. In my case, I want my pockets to be as long as this, so where the pockets are deeper, so I can fit my cell phone or whatever in it. So I'll be cutting out a piece that is twice as long as this, so that way I can make one long rectangle and fold over, stitch around to close. So I will be cutting out 2 pieces that are 6x18. Now I wrote my notes on here, but this is for per pocket. So my piece will be 6x18 for each pocket. So I need 2 of those. All right. Now, since I am using black waterproof canvas, I will not be using a Sharpie. I will instead be using chalk to make my outlines. All right. All right, let's go ahead and start off with pattern piece A, the main body. I need 2 of these. I want my fold and my fabric to be on the same side as the fold in the pattern, right? As for where to get waterproof canvas from, a lot of people say that they find Pro Tough at Walmart. I bought this waterproof canvas from Fabric Wholesale Direct. They have a variety of colors, so to try out new colors for, sometimes you just want to have a lining with a pop-up color. I like mine a little more subtle sometimes, so I'm just using black for the inside of my bag. Right? When you're using stuff like waterproof canvas, sometimes it's easier to make your measurements and make your cuts if you add a little bit of pressure to crease your stuff a little bit. I like to use a brayer. I got it for some other crafts and stuff, but I like to use it to help just do a little bit of a finger press in my waterproof canvas for that fold. All right, so I'm going to lay my edge down against this fold. I want this to be, this is my straight edge. So even if the top of this is a little wonky, like it looks like, I'm not worried about that because my fold on my pattern is right up against here. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take my chalk and I'm just going to trace around it. All right, so I know for my lining zipper pocket, remember I said I'm going to do mine as a long rectangle, so I need an 8 by 12 inch piece. I know I will need 2 6 by 18 pieces as well. Use my existing straight edge lines here, line my ruler up. So starting with the 0 on this side of my ruler, I'm going to measure all the way over to 18, which is actually the full length of this ruler, which is nice. So I'm just going to go ahead and mark a line down the side. This is 3 inches wide. Let me go ahead and keep my continuation of this line right here. So we know this is 3, but I need mine to be, what's it, 6. So I need to do another 3. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark up this side right here. I'm going to mark up 6 inches on this side. So that's 3. Then we have 6. Let me do this. I'm going to put a line because we are going to end up cutting 2 long pieces out right here. So I'm just going to say 6 plus 6 is 12. So I'm just going to go ahead and make my 12-inch long line right there. When you say, how did I know that this is 12 inches? Because I'm measuring from 0 up this side all the way to 12. So I know that's where my line is going to be. So this is 12 inches, but the halfway point is the 6-inch mark line. So I'm going to go up 6. I'm going to put a mark on this side right here at 6. All right. And then I'm going to come over here to this side. I'm going to do the same thing. Put my straight edge up against the edge here. And I'm going to continue to mark this line all the way up because I know I need to go from what? 0 to 12. So I'm going to call them all the way up to 12. Make that mark. And then I know 6 inches up, I need to make my little horizontal mark. So 6 inches. Make that horizontal mark right there. I'm going to then use the ruler, lay it on top, and I'm going to connect those 2 dots, matching up the sides with both of the vertical lines. And then also where these 12-inch marks are at, line up my ruler with the vertical lines. And then go ahead and make that horizontal line. Now you can see here, I have both of my rectangles traced out for what I need for my zipper pockets on the front. So let's go ahead and cut those out. All right, so we're going to go ahead and prep our zippers. The pattern calls for a 12-inch number 5 zipper. That is the zipper that's going to be going across the top of the bag. It also calls for two 6-inch number 5 zippers. That's going to be for both of these zipper pockets on the front. It calls for one 8-inch number 5 zipper. That's going to be this zipper that's going to be installed along here and along this edge right here. It also calls for one 8-inch number 3 zipper, which is going to be for the inside zipper pocket, right? So let's go ahead and get those together. I do buy my zipper as a continuous coil. You can find it on Wallwack. You can find it on Amazon. But you're going to get your zipper by the yard. Usually it's done by the yard or by like a bundle of so many yards. But you will get this along with zipper heads that match with it. So for the number 5, it is a wider teeth on it are wider than the number 3 zippers. Number 3 zippers are usually what you find in garments. For the 12-inch one, we're going to go ahead and cut off a 12-inch piece, and then we will have the zipper tabs to put on. So we're going to go ahead and slide the zipper head onto this piece here. Okay. And with the zipper that have nylon coil, you can cut them with a regular pair of scissors. I have craft scissors that I use to cut all of my nylon coil. I don't use paper scissors for that, and I don't use fabric scissors. I have craft scissors, which, you know, sometimes you're cutting harder stuff. You don't want to mess up your blades. So I'm going to measure out a piece that is 12 inches. There's 12 for the top, and then I need another 2 pieces that are 6 inches for the vertical zippers. I need another one that is 8 inches. So you will need 4 zipper heads to go with these 4 pieces here. And then of the number 3 zipper, this is going to be the zipper on the inside. I'm just going to use black with black zipper coils on it. I need to make sure that I cut myself a piece that is 8 inches long, right? And since we already have a number 5 zipper that's 8 inches, I'm just going to line this up next to it. We're going to go ahead and put the zipper heads on some of our zippers that we can go ahead and do that for, take care of and get it out of the way. So our inner zipper for the inner zipper pocket, this one we can go ahead and put our zipper head on because this will be inserted behind the cutout window for the zipper pocket. So here's the helpful hint. Make sure that you're looking at your coils with your teeth slanted down like this, not up like that. You want them to be facing down. So this is with the zipper teeth facing down. All right, you see that? That's facing down. This, you see, they're kind of like this. They're facing up. This is down. This is the way you want them to go, where they're facing down. Now you also want to go ahead and make sure you put the zipper head on your 12-inch. And you can do the same for both of your 6-inch. So for this one, I have different zipper heads. You're going to do it from the bottom. You're just going to separate your teeth a little bit, maybe about 1 inch or so. And what you want to do is when you're putting your teeth in there, you want to try to put both of them in at the same time. Just a little bit of the zipper head. And then pull that zipper head up. And hopefully things will be aligned for the most part. And you see here, sometimes you can tell where it gets a little, like it looks like there's a little bit more over here. It's probably because one of the teeth on this side entered the zipper head before this one did. And sometimes you can also tell like if your bottom is a little bit off. There are different ways to kind of offset this. One of the things that I will do sometimes is when I have my zippers all together, I will trim one side of my zipper tape. I'll take off like maybe 1 or 2 teeth at the bottom. And sometimes that helps me as I'm feeding it in there. It helps me to get them, more in place with each other. But a lot of people don't do that. That's just a personal preference for me. But for the most part, you're just going to be inserting the beginning of that into the beginning of both sides of your zipper into your zipper head, and then you're going to be pulling that up. There are tools and stuff out there that people have bought to help hold their zipper heads so they can just kind of slide their zippers. Hold their zipper head so they can just feed their zippers into it and slide it on. Everybody's tips and tricks are different, but I always seem to sometimes struggle with my zipper heads a little bit, but that's okay. Just take your time. You'll get it. So we have our two 6-inch zippers for the two vertical pockets. We have our 12-inch zipper for across the top, and we have our inner number 3 pocket. All right. Now the only one I'm not going to do the zipper head on yet is going to be the 8-inch zipper, and this is the one that's going to be in the center middle right here, because that one we're going to actually be applying in 2 separate pieces. All right. Okay, to prep your 12-inch zipper, you're just going to be taking one of your 1x1 squares or 1 1/4 squares. That's what I'm using because you can see now that my zipper tape is 1 1/4 wide, so that's the size square that I made it. But all you're going to do is you're going to take that piece, you're going to fold it over the edge, and then you're going to go ahead and you're going to sew a seam 1/8 inch from this raw edge right here. You're just going to sew one seam straight across. That's all you're going to do. You're going to put a zipper tab on both ends of your zipper. So please make sure you have that zipper head on there. Otherwise, you're going to have some issues when you want to go and open your bag. So I'm going to go ahead and prepare my zipper tabs on both ends of my 12-inch zipper tape, but I want to cover something really quick. You want to make sure that you're using the proper needle in your domestic machine, or if you're using an industrial, it's fine. You have your own size needles and thread for that, but this is going to be made on a domestic machine to show people this can be made on a domestic. So you want to make sure you're still using the proper thread. You don't want to use cotton thread that will pop, that will snap, and the color will fade. You want to make sure that you are using a poly bonded or a nylon thread. You can either use the Coats and Clark outdoor thread or upholstery threads. You can find these at Joann's, and you can tell the difference in these because their spools are a different color. The upholstery thread is a brown colored spool, and the outdoor thread has a teal colored spool. These are stronger threads than the all-purpose 100% polyester, but you will have to use these in the top of your machine. Most domestic machines will not handle these threads in the bobbin. So in the bobbin, I will use the 100% polyester. This is the dual duty all-purpose thread. This is my thread of choice for regular everyday stuff, but for bags, we're only going to use the outdoor, the upholstery, or we're going to use a bonded nylon or a polyester in either this machine or in our industrial. But like I said, we're doing this one on a domestic to show you guys this can be done. Now, if you want to get a better thread than these, you want more choices and colors as well, on Wallwack, you can go and you can get a Tex 45 thread. This is what the top of this looks like. Tex 45 has all the measurements there. It's, and you can see here, this is an OptiPop poly bonded thread. So this here is a very close comparison to the outdoor thread. The outdoor thread is also 100% poly. So this is a good thread from Walmart. It's the Tex 45. It is thicker. You can even see what you're holding in your hand. It's thicker than regular thread. You can already tell. With the upholstery one, this one is usually nylon. You can still use this for bags, but it's just a different material, but either nylon or polyester, bonded preferably. So I'm going to be using a black Tex 45 in the top of my machine, and like I said, in the bottom of the machine, I'm just going to be using this dual duty all-purpose 100% polyester thread in my bobbin, okay? Also, for the needle that I have in my machine, I am using Schmetz needles. I do buy my needles for my domestic sheen as a pack of, I think this was a pack of 100. Got this off of Amazon, but it was definitely cheaper than going and buying only packs of like a couple at a time through Joann's. Now the size of these needles are 100 or 16. Now if you compare that to the leather needles by Schmetz are 110 over 18. So slightly different, but I'm sewing this with vinyl, and I don't want to use my leather because leather needles will be punching bigger holes in your fabric. So keep that in mind, that you definitely don't want to use a needle that is too thick, because then you'll leave bigger holes than desired, and you'll have to make sure you use the right thread with these ones, because the bigger the hole, the thicker the thread needs to be. Think of it that way. So I will not be using leather ones. I will be using some that are slightly smaller, but they are made to be used in a domestic. All right. So I've gone ahead and I've already put my needle in. So I just need to go ahead and thread my machine. All right. So you're going to take your square piece. You're going to fold it over the end. And remember, you're just going to be stitching a line straight across with a 1/8 inch seam allowance. Remember, if you're cutting vinyl, you need to be using a slightly longer stitch. So make sure you adjust your machine accordingly. And you can also hold this in place with clips, just to make sure that it's not moving around while you're trying to sew. Now, you can use this, the pattern does say that you can use a zipper foot while stitching your bag together. I suggest you do, because your zipper foot will let you get closer to the edge of your, the parts that you're sewing together without, missing anything. So I would definitely encourage you to use a zipper foot throughout the making of this bag. This is how my machine is set up. It has a fixed button here. This is a Husqvarna Viking Epic, and it does have a fixed button. It'll do a stay stitch in place at the beginning to lock your stitch in. You can choose to do that or not. I have mine set on where it's blue, it's lit up like it's blue. I have it so that it will do that at the beginning of every single stitch. I don't mind doing this even if I'm using vinyl. Most of you guys are aware with vinyl that once you punch a hole in it, it's there. It doesn't go away. But these are parts that are going to be in the seam allowances, so I don't mind it using that fixed stitch. If I ever don't want it to do that, I just need to push that button to turn that blue off, and then it will not make that stitch at the beginning. Okay. Also, I do have a button here to cut my thread at the end. I do use this button. Like before, my stitches will be starting and stopping in my seam allowances, so I do not mind that happening. All right, let's go ahead and sew. You can see here that I've now sewn that seam, and I did it about 1/8 inch across. Go ahead and put that one aside. The next one that we're going to work on is going to be our zipper for the front. This one will be prepped in 2 separate pieces, so you want to go ahead and grab your 8-inch zipper that you cut out of the number 5 coil. You're going to go ahead and pull that apart. Now what you want to do is you are going to be folding the tops of both of these to make sure that they will have a seamless edge coming out of that. So you're going to mark down 1 inch on both sides. I'm just going to mark 1 inch down. And it doesn't have to be a big mark, just something that you can see. So let me show you up close. Just mark down 1 inch. You're going to do the same thing for the other side. So I'm just going to put these next to each other. Make the same mark for 1 inch on that side. All right. So what you're going to be doing for both of these is that you're going to be essentially folding down this fold right here. You're going to be folding these pieces down. And you're going to be stitching right here. So that way your zipper has this 90-degree bend. Now, some people will find it easier to staple this. We use a little bit of double-sided sticky tape with this. Fold it. Put a clip on it. Trying to find where the best angle is for the clip. Like that. So you see here, I've got it folded over. See it folded over right there in the back. And I'm going to just go ahead and I'm going to staple this. And when I say staple, y'all, I'm talking about a regular stapler. Bag making and staples go hand in hand. So I'm just going to slide that stapler all the way up to where it's on top of that zipper tape that's going this way. I'm going to slide it all the way up, and I'm just going to staple in it. And you'll see here that it does catch the back, but if it doesn't catch close enough, you might have to redo that again. But you'll figure out what the best angle is for you. If I take the clip out, I can actually get a little bit closer to that side where the fabric is layered. So you can see there, I've slid it up. I'll show you. You see where that is? I'm going to go ahead and slide that stapler up a little bit further, right up against the coil, and then staple. That second one is definitely a much better staple because you can see that it's catching both the front and the back down where there's a larger piece of the fold. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pop out that first one. All right. So that's how you staple. I mean, you can literally just use regular household stuff, a stapler. Who knew? For the other one, I'll go ahead and sew it to show you guys how you can sew it to do the same thing. Although sometimes, depending on what foot you're using on your machine, it might be a little tricky on trying to hold it. But same thing. I'm going to be folding it over where that inch mark is at. I'm going to be folding over. I still need to hold it, but right now a clip is going to be too big, so I'm actually going to pin it. All right. So I've got it folded. Let me grab a pin. And I'm going to pin this in place. All right. And then all I want to do at this point is I want to come back in here and I want to stitch vertically or horizontally, whichever one works best for the pattern. And this one, it's going to be best to try to stitch this way up and down. All right. So I have my zipper pinned with my needle, with my pin facing this way so I can just pull it out from this side. But I'm going to go ahead and I have my needle in the center. I'm going to put it down. I'm just going to stitch as far down as I can just to make that little stitch right there to tack this down. All right. Now I do have a reverse button on my machine. Some of you guys may have something that looks similar. It looks like this. I'm going to push this so now I can stitch backward. Before I stitch into my zipper tape, before I stitch into my zipper teeth, I'm just going to go ahead and now stitch backwards a couple of steps. And now that you're done with that, I can go ahead and hit the cut thread or just go ahead and needle up, pull out, and snip your threads. And that is how you will use your machine to tack down the side of your zipper. So either use your machine to do it or grab a household stapler and do the same thing. All right, let's move along. Let me take a moment to talk about the strap. If you're going to be making your strap for your clutch out of the same fabric as the outside of your clutch, then you're going to want to go ahead and make sure you cut your strap. Now, this is not the same length as a full-size strap because I'm just showing you an example on a smaller scale. I will be using 1-inch webbing with rivets to attach my strap, to make my strap, but I will show you the way that it is talked about in the instructions. So if you're using the 3/4 of an inch, make sure to have your 3-inch by 37 3/8 inch strap piece, and you're going to mark a line down the center. Now, if you're using 1-inch hardware, you want your strap piece to be 4 inches wide and the length that you need. Now, although it says 37 3/8 inch in the instructions, if you find that you like to make a longer adjustable strap or a shorter adjustable strap, that is up to you, but 37 3/8 is a general length for a strap that's adjustable for this bag. All right, so what you want to go ahead and do is, following the instructions, you're going to go ahead and mark that line down the center. After you mark that line down the middle, you want to use clips. I repeat, if you're using vinyl, you want to use clips. You can get these on Madame Sew, you can get these on Wallwack, you can get these at Hobby Lobby. The cheapest I've seen has been Wallwack. These are just little clips. These you will find save you a lot of frustration. But what you're going to be doing is you're going to be using these because if you use a pin, it will leave a hole in your vinyl when you go to use it. So what you're going to be doing is you're going to be folding the sides of your strap inward to that center line, right? Go ahead and just throw a couple of clips on there. Now remind you, they're doing this for the whole entire length of your strap. So you're folding the long sides in to meet that center line. Now you'll see I am offsetting my clips. I'm not having any of my clips directly across from each other, and you'll find out why in just a moment. But it's a good idea to put them staggered, not directly across from each other. And you're going to go ahead and put those clips in once you fold it towards that center line. And then what you're going to do from here is you're going to fold this in half again. And this is why I don't have those right across, because when you fold it, then it makes it easier to just open it up and put it back down. Now you have your strap all put together, and you're going to top stitch down both edges 1/8 of an inch from the side, right? Some people don't have a preference over which side they stitch. Some people want to stitch the folded side first. Some people want to stitch this edge first. I prefer to stitch this edge first because even if I'm a little bit off, it gives me an easier time making sure that my folded edges here are lined up with each other, right? It makes sure that they're both even all the way down this side. And then when I go to do top stitch my other side, all this is just already flattened out. It'll get pressed towards this side, so that side will be fine because it's the folded edge, right? So Now, you can use your zipper foot if you like, or if you have a Teflon foot, you can also use that because Teflon is a non-stick foot. It will make sure that it'll make sure that your vinyl is not sticking to the underside of your zipper foot. So if you do have a Teflon foot and you'd rather use it instead, I encourage you to do so. I'm going to use my zipper foot because I like to be able to see more what's going on and to get closer and be able to line things up, all right? You want to make sure that you have your needle aligned. You're going to be following the measurements on your throat plate. I know that right now my needle is sitting at 0, so I'm going to make sure that the edge of this strap lines up with my 1/8 mark on my throat plate. All right. Remember, you are sewing with vinyl, so you might need to sew with a little bit slightly longer stitch length. Let me go ahead and put that under there. And there's my first stitch down. All right. Now we see that we've done that one side at 1/8 of an inch. We're going to turn our strap around and we're going to do the same thing down the other side. All right, here we have it. We have our strap now. We've made that top stitch on it. And now we can move on with the rest of the instructions of making this adjustable strap. I will show you how I'm going to do it with the webbing and the rivets now, and I'll go ahead and attach my slider and prep the rest of my strap. Okay, so I'm going to be making my strap using 1-inch webbing. I'm going to go over some of the basics of what I'm going to use. I will be using rivets instead of stitching my strap to the hardware or securing it to the hardware. I will be using my rivet press. I do have a cam press. Some of you guys have seen this before. There are different types of presses. This is a cam press. It comes with different sets of dies, and then when you squeeze the handle down, it will press the rivet, which will close it and secure it. So either you are going to use an awl or a punch of some sort, or a corkscrew punch to do this. Now, most people are familiar with these kind of punches. It looks like a giant hole puncher, and it has different size holes that you can punch. Always punch a hole that's a size down from what you want to use, because sometimes depending on what the material is that you're using, that hole might shift around and stretch over time. So I just like to use a hole that's a size down from what I'm actually putting, from the size of the rivet that I'm using. Okay. Another type of hole punch is this corkscrew punch. This one, depending on how you punch your holes, for the lapels on the coat, you can use either one. I will show you how to use either one when you get there to that point, but I will say this much. When you go to put the holes in lapels, it won't be a problem. You can definitely use this one. But when you are trying to put the hole in your main body piece, you might have to get creative with how you're holding your fabric. When I say main body piece, I'm referring to the holes that will be in the body portion behind here. So like the lapel's going to have a hole in it, and this piece is also going to have a hole in it. This lapel's going to have a hole in it. This piece here is also going to have a hole in it. Same for these two. The lapels, you'll be able to easily punch with a hole punch, but you might need to use an awl or another type of tool to get the hole in the piece that is behind these lapels, this main body piece. But we'll cross that when we get there, okay? First, I'm just going to show you how to secure your straps. Now, I've gone ahead and cut my webbing to the desired length. I like to leave mine a little bit longer. So what I'm going to do now is, since I'm using a nylon web, you see here how it's kind of fraying. You want to go ahead and take a lighter and you want to just melt, slightly melt, not burn. You just want to slightly melt down the ends of it. Now, yes, will it sometimes catch, fire and see a flame? Yes, but you can easily blow it out. But you want to go ahead and do this because it will keep your ends from fraying. All right. So just wave that along the edge of it, enough to melt it. And you can see there how now you have a nice crisp edge, right? That's what you want. All right. Now that you've taken care of the fraying, you want to go ahead and secure one end to the slider bar of your hardware. You're going to put it under one and then over the other side, so that way you can fasten it on there. I like to slide mine to give myself about an inch, a little over an inch from that bar to the free end. And then I'm going to use my hole punch to just punch a hole in here. Now, sometimes I will slide this a little bit closer so there's not like a lot of wiggle room. It's up to you, but depending on how your press is or how you're fastening your rivet, you might have to have a little bit longer of a lead to be able to get it under there, but this should be fine. All right, so I have my hole punch. I'm going to go ahead and take it. I'm going to line that hole punch up right in the center, and I don't want to go too close to this edge right here. I want to make sure that I'm at least a good ½ inch away from this free edge of that strap right there, at least ½ an inch in, but I want to be in the center between the sides of the webbing, okay? And I hold the straps together because I want my holes to be aligned. If you need to, grab a clip and just use a clip to hold it in place on one side, so that way you can concentrate on just getting the hole in the right place. So I'm gonna go ahead and put that in the middle, right there. And then you're just gonna hole punch. Now you go until you hear the pop, and that's how you know that it's all the way in there, right? So pop. That's what you want to hear. I usually do that, and I usually wiggle it around just a little bit, because if you did not pop it enough to get it all the way cut all the way through, when you go to try to do this number, you will feel resistance. I don't feel any resistance because you heard that loud pop. It went through all the layers. So you want to do that. Sometimes it doesn't exactly, pop out the hole. So sometimes you might just need to take your hand and just get out some of the hole. Get some of the fibers out the hole. All right. So now that I've done that, you can see the hole that I cut straight through. You have many different lengths of rivets. If I was going to be doing the vinyl, I would use a rivet with a longer post, but since I'm using the webbing, I'm using a shorter rivet with a shorter post. Now, this one is definitely going to go through all those thick layers of your vinyl strap. This is fine for webbing. This is a lightweight strap. You don't need a longer posted rivet, because if you do, your rivet's going to be moving around a lot. It's going to have a lot of play in that. You don't want that. You want it to be on there tight. So you want to use a rivet that has just enough of a post on it. So once again, this would be way too long for webbing. A shorter one like this would be fine for webbing. This one would be ideal for vinyl, and I'll show you how this looks on a vinyl in just a moment. I'm going to show you how much of a difference the post would make if you were to use that longer one. So let's say I'm going to come in here like before. I'm going to make my hole punch. Now imagine I have like the slides just around here. I'm going to make another hole punch. This is just for example's sake of just showing you how a difference in the post length matters. Using this is going to go ahead and punch out those pieces of vinyl. So see there, there's the 2 holes. Now, I would have to use a longer post for this because when I put it in this one, when I fold it over or through my hardware and I go to put it through here again, you see how thick this is compared to the webbing? That's just a little bit of that sticking up. So when I go to put this on here, that is the right thickness. You see that hole? That's going to be where the hardware is sticking through there. So this is the right length of a post. You definitely want to make sure you use something with a longer post when you are using vinyl straps or leather or thicker materials. But for the webbing, you can use something with a shorter post. That is fine. But that's going to be how you apply it when you're using vinyl if you're using rivets. So I'm going to go ahead and just put one end of my rivet on one side with the post, and then I'm going to snap the other half on. The bottom of the rivet is going to sit inside that well. The top half of this rivet will be inside this one at the top. All right, it's just going to sit right there. You're going to grab your handle. You're going to squeeze gently. You don't have to push down super hard. Just give it a squeeze. You'll feel it collapse. There you go. Your rivet has now secured the end of that strap. You're going to go ahead and lay that up, short side up. You're going to go ahead and go to the other end of your strap. You're going to put your hook on with the hook facing down. Just slide that through the loop. On top, you're going to go ahead and put your strap through, and then you're going to move your slider bar over and go back down the back side. And this is how you get your adjustable hook, your adjustable strap on there. It's fastened with the rivet. Your hook is facing the right way, because if you don't, if you put your hook on the wrong way, your hook is going to end up looking like this, be on the inside where it shouldn't be. Now, if you're using webbing, it's easy. You saw that. You saw how easy it was to kind of flip it around. But if you're using vinyl or the exterior material for the bag to do it, it might be a little harder to swap that around. So you have on one, so all you need to do is go to the other end. Now make sure that you are folding these the right way. You want to make sure that both sides are facing, up. Now, when I put this other hook on, I'm going to be folding this towards the back. I'm going to fold it back by an inch, about 1.25 inches. I'm going to fold that back. I'm going to use my hole punch the same way I punched a hole for the slider bar. I'm going to punch a hole on this side. Now, you can do this from the back so you can see what you're doing. You don't necessarily have to have the hook on there yet, because it's not like it's a slider bar. It's just going to be the hook being put on. So I'm going to take my same hole punch. I'm going to be about half an inch from this short edge, but center it on the width of the webbing. And then make sure you're in the center, and then squeeze till you hear the pop. Wiggle it back and forth just to make sure you have no little fibers being held onto. And there you go. You can see that hole clean straight through. You see there's a little bit of fraying in there, but that's to be expected. That's a pretty good hole. So I've got my hook on there. I'm going to go ahead and put that through there with the post. I'm going to go ahead and snap on the back. That holds it in place until you get all your stuff on. And I'm going to go ahead and press this with the can press. And there you go. You've secured that rivet on that side. Now you have your finished strap. So now at this point, we've already cut out all of our pieces of our exterior. We've cut out our pieces of our interior. We've prepped all of our zippers with zipper heads and tacking them down as we needed to. We've went ahead and made our strap. We have our optional piece cut out for our pocket. The only thing left to do at this point before we actually start sewing is that I will be edge coating all of my pieces here with a black Sharpie. Since I'm just using vinyl, this is just the easy way out. Not a lot of people want to spend money on edge coating. I'm literally just going to take my Sharpie marker. I'm going to go around the edge and just let the black the black marker just sink into it. This is the easy way to edge coat. It is a low cost option. It is using permanent marker, you know, good old Sharpie markers. But that's what I'm going to go ahead and go around all these pieces with. That will be shown on the outside. So any piece that will have an exposed seam on the outside will be edge coated. So it will be the lapel pieces. So G, your mirrored lapel pieces, that one will need to have that Sharpie edge coat, as well as your collar H, that will need to have the edge coat. Let's see. My little panel for the 2-piece pocket, these will need to have some edge coating on them. I will do edge coating on this overlay, although it will be on the inside. It will still have that, you know, that white edge. So I still will edge coat my overlay. Now that. This is C, the lapel back. This one will be showing when it's open and folded out, like so. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure that I edge coat C. For B, I want to make sure that I edge coat. I don't have to edge coat the whole entire thing, but I do want to edge coat this portion here and this portion here. This would be the visible edge. This long piece here, and then this part going down here. All of the rest of the piece here, here, and here will all be sewn into the seam allowance. So just want to make sure it's just going to be this portion going up and down. And I don't have to worry about anything on A, but that will be fine. Oh, I'm sorry. And also on D, the other side, the side that is curved will all be getting sewn into the seam allowance, but this straight side right here, you're going to want to just put a little bit down the side of this side of it because it will be next to the zipper, so that will be exposed. So these pieces I will go around with the Sharpie to give a little edge coat detail, and in the next video we are going to start putting this together. All right.